right, the Securities and Exchange Board of India recently allowed mutual fund houses having existing active equity-linked savings schemes to launch passive ELSS schemes also, provided fresh flows to such existing active schemes are halted. On the ET Money Show today, we will decode what exactly is a passive ELSS scheme, its benefits, and whether you should be investing in them. Let's bring on board Anant Ladha, founder, Invest, Aaj For Kal. And Anant, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you in the studio after a very long period of Zoom interactions, right?
Absolutely. It's always fun, and thank you so much for having me.
Lovely. So let's talk about passive ELSS. Now, what are the terms and conditions under which an AMC can launch a passive ELSS fund?
See, basically now AMCs will have to choose between active versus passive. They can only choose one fund in ELSS category. I feel it is good for investor because they'll have a lot of choices. A lot of time, a lot of people say that active versus passive, choose one. I personally feel that we should put and instead of versus, and both are actually complementing each other. And when investors will have options, I think they'll be better judged to choose what is best suiting their portfolio.
All right. But then talking about specifically ELSS passive schemes and the kind of guidelines according to which or as per which an AMC can roll out these schemes, an AMC can either have an active or a passive scheme, right?
Absolutely.
So the existing ones, the existing AMCs, in fact, more than 75% of them have an active ELSS, and apparently they are doing well as well. What kind of AMCs, according to you, would actually land up launching a passive ELSS?
I feel all the new AMCs have a beautiful opportunity out there because it will be a difficult task for existing AMCs to switch to passive, especially the ones which are topping their chart and performing really well. So I think they'll be sticking to the active funds. But for new AMCs, it is an opportunity where they have less of competition. So they can actually scale it up. And once a new AMC find a place in customers' portfolio, actually they will get to know about that AMC more, and probably they can even study that AMC more. So it's a difficult task for existing AMCs, but I'm very sure some of the existing AMCs will also take a tough step and try switching to passive thing. And I'll be very excited to see that which AMC is taking that tough task.
All right, that's interesting, in fact. But then let's understand how an ELSS fund actually works for an investor, an active ELSS, and what will be the difference if you land up investing in a passive ELSS. So there's a role of a fund manager, which is very important, which is very crucial in an active mutual fund. And when we talk about an active ELSS, how would you define the role of a fund manager? What goes into it?
See, I personally feel that active ELSS is a very important category. There are a lot of investors who are just investing in ELSS because they are getting ATC reduction. So they are not using mutual fund as a category or as a whole for their portfolio planning, but they are surely using ELSS for the ATC reduction. So the number of investors, I am sure in coming times, will be increasing in ELSS. If I talk about fund managers' role, presently they are managing it like a multi-cap fund. Majorly are investing majority part in large cap, but yes, there are some tactical calls in mid cap and small cap which is also taking place. That is why ELSS as a category, I personally love this category because it is giving complete freedom to the fund manager. Plus, he knows that the fund which is coming in will at least stay for 3 years. So he has more control over those funds because of the ATC guidelines, obviously. So it's a very important category, and being a multi-cap category, indirectly, it can actually give amazing returns, and it is comparatively easy to beat index in this category.
That is a very important thing. But then once you launch a passive ELSS scheme, you are replicating the benchmark or the index. From where would you earn?
See, in markets like India, I feel alpha is always there. At least for next 10 years, we'll have some opportunities of alpha.
Even the passive?
No, obviously in the active ones. In passive are for know-nothing investors. Suppose if there is an investor who want to invest in markets and take ELSS benefit, ATC reduction obviously, and he don't want to run in the race of beating the market, and he want that I just want my market returns. And for such kind of investor, I think there'll be some space in this category, especially the passive part. Otherwise, I feel for majority of us, active funds will solve its problem. And when we have active ELSS, it is a category where a fund manager can actually give some alpha. So there is no need to just rush out because there's a new passive fund which has come out. You have to properly decide, look at your portfolio. If your portfolio is already having a passive fund in the large cap category, no need to replicate it or use passive category in ELSS if you can take that extra risk.
Sure. Also, let's talk about the transfer. Like, for example, an AMC decides to launch a passive ELSS fund, they will have to shut down their active ELSS. Now, how would the transfer take place, and how would the investor know that an AMC is taking that step?
See, I feel mutual fund is a very transparent tool.
Sure.
So they'll have to give proper notifications. They'll have to stop new flows. But existing fund which is already invested, there'll be a proper guideline and proper notification which will be issued from all the AMCs, and there'll be proper mails which will be coming to your way. So don't feel worried about anything that you won't come to know about what is actually happening. You will get each and every information, and I think this transition will not happen overnight. There'll be a transition period through which investor will get an option. Whenever there is a switch in any of the categories, there is always some transition period which is given to an investor where he can decide whatever he want to do with his portfolio or with his funds. So it will be a very smooth transition, nothing to worry about.
But then, if an AMC, I mean, talking from an understanding the business from an AMC's point of view, don't they earn more from an active ELSS? I mean, from an active scheme rather than from a passive one?
Yes, they obviously earn more from active because the expense ratio is higher.
Yeah.
But everything has its pros and cons.
Right.
If there's an active fund manager is actually sitting out, making proper reports, have a big team of research analysts who is deciding onto the stock selection. Even the sector selection is there. So, see, earning money is not easy. It is a difficult task, and someone is doing that job for you. Obviously, he'll charge you something.
Definitely.
And if he's charging you as less as 1%, I think you can afford it. Still, if you feel no, I don't want to give that amount, then obviously you have passive category, and now you have passive category in ELSS. So all the better for you, those who don't want to spare that extra 1%.
All right. So don't you think, because we use ELSS as a tax saving instrument for all those people who are aware of this benefit, once if an AMC launches a passive ELSS scheme, somewhere down the line they want to mitigate the risk that gets into investing in mutual funds for tax saving purpose?
Absolutely right. That can be an objective. Plus, I think bigger objective will be to give investors a better choice.
Exactly.
At least give them an option to choose passive fund. And I feel once passive ELSS is there, there'll be tougher competition for active ELSS fund managers.
Really? You think so? Why?
Yeah. They'll try to beat and try to perform better and maybe take that extra effort as well, because right now there was no competition for them.
Okay.
They were managing ELSS and there was no alternative index fund which you could use, which could give you ATC reduction. But now there'll be competition. So I think I think whenever you have options, it's always good. It's completely upon the investor what is best suiting for him. Having options are always good, be it shopping or be it market.
What's the market cap allocation exposure in the current ELSS active schemes?
You are asking for the percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise.
It's very less. I think it's less than 10% right now of the total mutual fund industry.
Okay.
But I think...
And also within the scheme exposure in the market cap, like a large cap or a mid cap or a small cap?
Okay, that wise. Okay, so majorly, I think more than 65% is invested in large caps. Balance is in small and mid caps. There are some funds which are taking that extra risk and investing in small cap and mid cap heavily, but majority are investing more than 65% in large caps as on date.
So when we talk about an ELSS scheme, and over here obviously because the active ones are available, we will be talking about that. Does it make sense to invest to an SIP or a lump sum investment? Because you have a lock-in for 3 years, which a lot of people are not aware about.
I personally feel SIP is a subse important plan. It is a plan which is actually simplifying your investing habit and making it a habit. Anything which, rather I would say that any investment instrument which is becoming your habit is always good. So SIP mode is always good. And at times what happens is sometimes there are people who just invest in ELSS or maybe ATC reduction in the March. So in hurry, at times they end up choosing a wrong fund or maybe investing in some other product instead of investing in ELSS. So it's always better to regularize it, form an SIP, and make sure that you are investing and averaging out your amount as well. SIP biggest benefit is rupee cost averaging. Whenever market will go down, you will buy more units, and whenever market is doing good, you will buy less units. So that is the biggest advantage, and if you're getting that advantage with ATC reduction, obviously you should use it.
All right, so I can't leave you without asking you the recommendation for ELSS scheme. So all the viewers who have not been investing and haven't really thought about their tax saving yet, what kind of scheme would you recommend? I mean, a lot of people are aware of Access Long-Term Equity, but then the fund size is so huge. A lot of people have the question that how safe it is to invest in such a huge fund.
See, before answering it, I will put an important disclaimer.
Sure.
That if your portfolio is already having good allocation of equity funds and you are looking for debt, I feel even PPF is a good option. It's the only traditional option which I like. So if you're using that, it's absolutely okay. If I talk about funds, it is not my recommendation. It is my personal opinion. I'm just telling the funds which I am personally using. I feel that Kotak Tax Saver Fund and Tata Tax Saving Fund is two good funds to study, and I'm very sure when you'll study these funds, you will get to know a lot of about a lot of thing about mutual fund as a whole as well, because these are two beautifully designed funds.
Lovely. So we spoke about passive ELSS and also got the recommendation for an ELSS fund in case you haven't really thought about your tax saving investment. But then now we move on. Anant will be here.